Hi, welcome to another video blog. More and more leaders and companies that we're working with these days are asking us, how do we bring the why into more of our day-to-day conversations? And how do we inspire our people and connect more of our people with the why? The famous TED Talk by Simon Sinek really brought that home to us around the fact that great leaders always start with the why. Well, what we're going to do is two really simple videos on some practical ways you can bring the why into more of your day-to-day conversations. In this one, I'm just going to talk about, again, why is the why important and what are some of the things that we need to connect for our people in terms of the why. And then in the second video, we're going to go into some really simple ways in terms of how you can have that conversation to bring the why into it. So why is the why important? Well, let's just go back to kind of when we were growing up. When we were 2 years old and there was a pot of boiling water on the stove and we sort of went to touch it, our parents kind of would say, look, don't touch it. And then there was usually a reason for that. And there was a reason, which is you're going to burn your hands. Now, sometimes we actually have to touch it in order to realize that, but it wasn't just don't touch it because I said so. Okay. There was a reason for it. We explained that reason. All of us as human beings, as a part of us, it needs to feel a connection to something. I need to really understand the meaning behind something before I'm going to buy into it. And as we learned in the Simon Sinek video, when we actually do that, we ignite people's passions, we ignite people's hearts. Okay. If we can actually explain the why in more of the little things that people do on a day-to-day basis, that's going to lift their level of connection, ultimately their commitment to some of those things, which will have a positive impact on their contribution to those things. So in terms of what are some of the things that we need to connect when it comes to the why? Well, at the cornerstone of everything, what we want to make sure is that the purpose of the organization is central to everything that we communicate with our people. This really is the number one why. As an organization, you need to have a why we exist, and that why needs to mean something that's more than just money, and it needs to represent something to our customers, our people, our suppliers, our partners, our investors, the community. It needs to resonate with all of them. So that's at the center point of everything. But other things we need to connect is we need to connect our culture, okay, in terms of why we have the culture that we want, why our values and behaviors as part of that culture are important to us. We need to also connect our strategy back to our purpose. We need to connect our culture to our strategy. We need to connect roles and responsibilities and the structure that we've got in place. How do certain roles connect with other roles? How do those roles fit with the strategy? We need to be able to connect our processes and systems. Why do some of those processes exist? Why does the process exist? Why does the process exist that way? How do those processes support our culture or support our strategy? We need to talk about some of our frameworks and the settings that we have in place. Okay, guidelines for people, things like decision-making authority that they have. Okay, why do some of those guidelines and parameters exist? How does that support things like safety and risk? How do those frameworks then fit with our processes, our roles and our structure? We need to be able to connect leadership back to our culture and our strategy. Okay, why do we expect certain things of our leaders? What's our philosophy around leadership and the role that leaders need to play in supporting our culture and bringing our purpose to life? And we also need to connect priorities. So how do our priorities support our purpose? How do our priorities support our strategy? How do certain processes and frameworks then connect back with our priorities? So these are some of the things that if we can connect the dots for our people in our day-to-day conversations, we're going to lift the overall level of meaning and therefore the connection and commitment that people are going to feel to everyday things. Hope you've enjoyed it. Look forward to the second video.